everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are having kind of a brunch lunch today, breakfast for lunch. And we're going to be making, I have some sourdough English muffins I prepped up. We're going to make a homemade hollandaise sauce, fry up some bacon, sausage, cut up some fruit, and put some tater patties in the oven. So kind of like an eggs Benedict, but not completely because I prefer fried egg and bacon over Canadian bacon and a poached egg. So similar, but not quite. So let's get our bacon cooking up since that's one of the longest things that are going to take today. I'm going to put it in my pan here. I'm going to turn on my burner and we're going to let it start to kind of fry up. And then we're going to get our tater patties laid out. We'll sprinkle a little bit of garlic salt over them. And we will let them start to cook up. Let me wash my hands real quick. So I do have my oven preheated to 425 on the air fryer setting. And super simple. I was like, I don't feel like making hash browns today, but I always have like a pack of tater patties in my oven, which is perfect because we've got a small crew today, and Evie doesn't like potatoes, so we've got enough for everybody else.
You mean you keep them in the freezer?
Yes, in the freezer. What did I? Oven. Here's my brain going a mile a minute. I had to wake up very early today to take my niece to the airport at 3. Well, she had a really early flight, but I had to get up at 3:30. So I've already been up for like a whole day. We're going to put a little bit of garlic salt on them because I find these need just a little pinch. And what we're going to do is we're going to cook them halfway. We'll flip them and then we'll put a little bit more garlic salt and put them in things. And I'm going to pop these in the oven at 425 on my air fryer setting. But if your oven doesn't have an air fryer, you can do convection bake at 425, or you could do like a regular bake at 450. So we're going to get those in there and let them start cooking up. I love hash browns. McDonald's hash browns are so good. It's like one of those things that I just love. That you just remember as a kid. I remember my parents used to take us on the first day of school. We always went to McDonald's for breakfast, and it was just a tradition we always did. And back then, that was something like really special when we were a kid. And that's probably why I have a love for the McDonald's hash brown patties. And these ones are taste pretty similar to it. You break these 2 pieces of bacon apart. Here we go. And then I'm going to cook them over. I'm going to start them over about a medium-high heat because I want them to sweat out their fat. That way they don't scald or burn. And then we are going to start on our English muffins, cooking them up. So I'm going to get my oven or my skillet heating up right here. So we're going to heat it up. We don't need any butter or anything like that. And then let me get my English muffins out. These are sourdough English muffins. So I kind of started working on them late last night. And then when I woke up, I kind of at 3:30 in the morning did a knead, let them rise. And then I shaped them about an hour or so ago. And these little crumblies on top, that is cornmeal. And so we're going to start cooking them on our skillet. I'm going to get a nice thin spatula. That way I can transfer them off. Let me see. I'm waiting for my skillet to heat up all the way. So I'm going to let it sit for just a second while it heats up because you want to have a nice hot skillet on it. These take a hot minute to cook. They don't cook up just like instantly. You're going to cook them for about 4 to 5 minutes on each side. But the first batch is going to take the longest because my skillet isn't completely hot. But I'm going to start transferring these on here. They have cornmeal on both sides. And I will say sourdough English muffins are so, so good.
I made a question. Where do you get your cookware?
So there are like a variety of different places. They got Hexclad, Allclad, Nordic Wear. So I actually created an Amazon storefront, and I have put everything that I've bought in my Amazon storefront. So I have all of my like cooking utensils in there, my baking sheets, my pans, everything's in there that I use. I've kind of collected mine over the years through different places. you know, but I have all my favorites.
Yeah, question. Do you have a video or a recipe for English muffins from the start?
I'm not sure if I don't think so. I don't know if I've done the English muffins from the start. And maybe I'll make this like a freebie recipe card for everyone, because typically when I make my English muffins, I'm making them at midnight. That's when I go to bed, and I make them right before I go to bed. But they are really, really simple to make. So you start with a half a cup of active sourdough discard, and then it's a cup of milk, a tablespoon of honey, a teaspoon of salt. You mix all of that in, and then you're going to add in 3 cups of flour. And I want to say there's oil in there too. I'm trying to remember exactly my recipe. I believe I have a little bit of oil in there as well. But then you knead it together, and then you let it sit for an hour, and then you knead it again, and then you let it sit for about 8 to 12 hours. But that might be a recipe card that I might share out for freebies. Or you know what? Next time I'm going to just remember to make it. Maybe we'll make a video of it to do it. It's really simple, but very, very delicious. Okay. I'm going to let those cook. So one thing about Eggs Benedict, the thing that makes Eggs Benedict is the sauce, which is a hollandaise sauce. So we are going to make our hollandaise sauce. I'm going to prep up. Let me grab my things over here. We're going to make our sauce. So I'm going to melt a stick of butter, so a half a cup of butter. And we're going to melt this up into our little pan here. Let me get it all the way in there. I don't want it to ooze over the edge. And then we're going to whisk together 3 egg yolks and about a tablespoon of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. You got to use fresh lemon juice. So I'm going to heat my butter up. I don't want it to be super, I want it to melt and be hot, but not scalding hot. Now let's do our yolks. So we're going to have to separate our eggs, and this is made with just the yolk. So I'm going to crack them, and then we will separate. And this is what's going to give it. It's a hollandaise sauce. It's like a lemon, butter, and egg yolk sauce. It's delicious. It's smooth, velvety. Some people put mustard in it. I prefer mine without mustard, but so good. This is also a sauce you can put on asparagus as well. It's just a delicious sauce. Okay. I got my last one. And this is one where the better quality egg you have, the better the sauce. So you're going to want, nice, rich, deep egg yolks for the best sauce. So we're going to start with our 3 egg yolks. I'm going to start starting to whisk them together. And then we're going to add in about a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. Let me get this. Start on the whisking. You can use an immersion blender for this if you want. I used to have an immersion blender and I broke it. I overmixed something, and it was one of those ones. I bought a cordless one, and I wish I had a cord because it would probably still be working if it was corded. Okay, I'm going to squeeze in about a tablespoon of lemon juice, and this is a pretty juicy lemon, so that's going to be just about a half a lemon. But if your lemon's a bit drier, then you're going to need a little bit more. And we're going to whisk this until it's about double in size and nice and velvety. And this is where you can definitely use an immersion blender, but if you don't have one, a good old whisk works really well. A full metal whisk will work better than a silicone coated whisk because that you're not beating it as hard. Get this guy, looks like he's ready. And turn. So I've got some of them are looking ready. I'm looking for them all to have this nice dark brown on it, though, so this side needs a little bit more. But you know, one of those things is a while ago, I replaced all of my whisks with either plastic or silicone whisks because most of the time I use whisks for my like making gravies in my nonstick pans. And you know, you can't use metal in it, but that does make this a little bit harder. So I'm actually, I realize I remember I have be creative because this is gonna work better. This is my hand mixer whisk. And this is going to whisk it up better. So I'm just going to use this. I realize that might sound a little bit sharp. I'm going to whisk it away so it's not going over my microphone as much. And we're going to whisk it up until we have our nice and like bubbly and frothy. We're getting a nice velvety texture to it. So we've already got a little bit of size here. And check on my skillet. I'm going to start turning this guy down. There we go. So now I have my skillet. We're going to start cooking over about a 4. I don't want to cook them up too fast or where they brown too fast. I want them to cook more slowly and brown up. But my skillet is, let's see, these are just about ready. That one needs a little bit more. But you see how they're popping up. They're getting a little bit higher. And what essentially that steam, when you cook it up, is going to heat the insides of it and make them just lovely for this. Let me turn my bacon here. This bacon is pretty thick cut today. Even though it was an original cut, it wasn't a thick cut bacon. It's much thicker, which will actually work well. So an Eggs Benedict traditionally uses Canadian bacon, which is like ham. And so I prefer regular bacon over it. I'm just going to give my butter over here a stir. And we'll have that kind of heat up. And these are doing great. We'll do our little shuffle. I'm going to put that right here. Okay. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit more. I'm going to rotate it here. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more. So you can see it's already started to get more soft. I'm going to whisk it a little bit more. And then I'm going to turn my water on here because we're going to create a double boiler, which is essentially like when you melt chocolate, you do a double boiler where you put a bowl over a pot of boiling water so you don't have direct heat. Because if you have direct heat on it, what's going to happen is it's going to scald or like cook, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to whisk this again a few more times. And then once my butter over there, we're going to pour it into this mixture with our spices. There we go. Got my butter nice and hot now. I'm going to turn it off. And there we go. I'll get that guy going. So just look how much they've already puffed up compared to my ones over here. You know, they're about almost double the size, but they're going to be delicious. I'm going to bring my back burner on. There we go. I'm going to give this a nice little stir. And before we mix in our butter, we are going to add in some spices to our hollandaise sauce. We're just going to use paprika, black pepper, and salt. If you want a little bit more kick, you can use a little bit of cayenne pepper, but I prefer more mild. So we're going to use, I'm going to do about a half a teaspoon of salt. I am using salted butter, but if you use unsalted butter at home, you might want to put a little bit more salt in it. And then I'm going to do about 1/4 a teaspoon of black pepper. You don't need much. And then we're going to do about a half a teaspoon of paprika. And you can always save some of your paprika and do a nice like sprinkle over it to give you that more bougie look. Okay, our bacon is cooking up great. Before I whisk that, I might go grab a plate to start taking these on. These are looking good. We got this nice golden brown. So I'll be ready to take these off in just a few. You want to make sure you leave them on there a good bit. So I've, turn down your heat. You want, once your skillet's hot, you turn it down low because you want a low and slow cooking on it. Okay, let's get this.
So you have a question. Cooking bacon like that, does it make it crispy?
I find it makes it crispy. I call this my crazy bacon method. I prefer cooking it in a frying pan over in the oven. The trick with, making your bacon nice and crispy is making sure there's enough fat in there. And so that it can fry in the fat. I find that the thinner cut bacon cooks better than the thick cut. The thick cut will be more chewy. And then you want to kind of go slower, not as high heat, but go over like a medium heat. And then I typically cook it until it's golden brown and I see a lot of white foam from the fat. That means it's kind of cooked out all of the liquid in the fat, the water, and that means it's going to be crunchy. And then I put it on paper towels to soak up that extra grease, and that makes it even more crunchy versus kind of soggy or chewy. I'm going to turn it down to about a 4 here. And now we're going to put our pan over here. And now we're going to slowly add in our butter a little bit at a time. You don't want to put too much in here because, again, your butter's hot and it can cause it to like cook up. And we're just going to add a little bit in here at a time. We'll add a little bit more. And this is going to make that lovely hollandaise sauce. So the heat from the double boiler down below will also help kind of cook that egg yolk as well as the hot butter. Now this is one of those things you have to be careful with. You can't leave it unattended. This is one that if you leave it unattended, you will overcook your hollandaise sauce and you'll break it. Which is not hard to fix. You can always just add in more butter to fix it and another yolk. Here we go. And we're almost there. It's starting to thicken up nicely. I can feel the resistance on my bowl, like as I whisk it. And again, a metal whisk is going to be the best one for this. I have my silicone or my plastic whisk, but this one's going to give you the most friction against that egg. So let's sit for a second while I turn my bacon here. I'll turn it down nice and low again. It's almost done. You can see it's starting to get that white kind of foam out of it. I'm going to wait until it's a little bit more golden. And now I'm going to put my first batch of English muffins over here. Look at those. And let's slide our last one on. And I will say these are something that they cook up pretty quickly and fast. And homemade English muffins are so much better than store-bought ones. My mom said, she goes, I never liked English muffins until I tasted yours and had them homemade. And I said, they're just so much better.
Good question. Can you go over what's all in the sauce?
The sauce, so we started out with 3 egg yolks, and we mixed it with about a tablespoon of lemon juice. Then we added in about a half a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and about between a 1/4 and a half a teaspoon of paprika. And you're gonna whisk those up until they're nice and velvety smooth. And then you're gonna add in a stick of melted butter, which is a 1/2 cup. And you're gonna do that over your medium heat or over your double boiler here. And this is giving you that, you can see it's nice and thick. Let me grab my spoon from the butter. Now we're getting a nice thick sauce from it. I'm going to turn off my water, and we're just going to let it slowly kind of cook up now. Let me check. My bacon is looking good. So I'm going to actually got it. I'm going to pull this to the side. I'm going to grab a paper. My burner's getting a little hot. I have a little bowl today for my things. Now with the bacon, we're going to put it on a paper towel and let it soak up that extra grease, which will allow it to be nice and crispy. If you try to just take your bacon out without putting it on something, that's when you're going to get the bacon that gets chewy. And then if you over crisp it, will like dissolve. You can see like where I look at it, I'm seeing this like white that's bubbling up on it. That means it's almost got all of the like the liquid out of it, which will mean it will be nice and crispy. Here we go. And then I'm going to fry up my sausages in here real quick. And then we'll get rid of some of our bacon grease and we'll fry up our eggs. But these sausages fried up in bacon grease, so much better. So we're going to give them a nice little thing. Here we go. Okay, so I've got my sauce here. I'm going to remove it completely because it's nice and thick now. I'm going to see if I got any little extra butter in here before I get rid of my pan. And this is our delicious hollandaise sauce. And then we're going to go grab our tater patties out of the oven and give them a quick flip over. Give that a nice little stir. Let's check on these guys real quick. They're doing good. Okay, I'm going to grab my tater patties because you want them to crisp up, so you need to flip them over. And then we'll add a little bit of garlic salt on this side as well. Okay, and then I'm just going to set them right here, and we're just going to flip them real quick. You see how that bottom side's got that nice crunch on it? That's going to be perfect. If you don't flip them halfway over, what happens is you get like one side's crispy and one side is kind of soggy. And you want that crisp up, but you can crisp it up without frying it in grease. And then we're just going to pop these in. And these need just about 5 or so minutes. So I'm going to set my timer because I'm hoping everything should be done right around that time. Okay. Let's check out.
You have a question? What was sprinkled on them?
A little bit of garlic salt. So I find the tater patties, you need a little extra seasoning. So I put a little bit of garlic salt and it gives you that nice savory seasoning on them. And here's our first batch of English muffins. I made them smaller than usual because they're just, I like them a little bit smaller. They kind of means you can have more than one and you don't feel so bad about it. Okay, these are almost ready to flip. Let's kick out our sausages here. Beautiful. Perfect. They're almost done here. And then I've got my, you can see how nice and it is thickened up here. And this will be lovely to pour over it. Our little thing cooked a little bit longer to do it, but look at my crispy bacon, nice golden brown and lovely. So that will be delicious on our sandwiches. And while our rest of our stuff is cooking up, I've got my pineapple here, which has been calling me to clip it up. It's such a weird shape. It was like such a sideways head.
You have a question? Was the bacon cooked on low or medium?
It was, I started it out on high to get the pan heated up, and then I turned it down to about a medium low. So I cooked it on about a 4. I don't like to cook it too high because if you cook it too high, what happens is you end up burning it and then it doesn't kind of, you know, get nice and like fatty where you can get that good crisp on it. So we're going to cut up our pineapple. This pineapple, I bought it at the store. It looks so great. And it like just never ripened up the way I wanted it to. But it looks like it's going to be good. Here we go. So what I do is I cut it into fourths after I cut my top and my bottom off. And then I'm just going to take my blade and run it around. Now, if you have any little brown specks where the seeds are, cut them off. And if you have any seeds in there, cut them out because those seeds will turn your pineapple brown in a day. And if you're like my kids, if it turns brown, even if it's good, they won't eat it. But we're going to have some pineapple and strawberries, our fruit today. Let's get these. This one, the top was not wanting to ripen up with the bottom. And typically, so you can see my bottom was all golden brown, but my top stayed green. It just didn't want to ripen together. Sometimes, you know, you get one and you're like, oh, this is going to be such a good pineapple. And then it doesn't ripen up the way it should. But I will say, I will buy my pineapple and cut it up every time because just me cutting up my own pineapple saves me easily $10 because I get so much more pineapple than you get from the store for them to cut it up. Let's get our sausages out. Whoop, lost one. And there we go. And now I'm not going to use all of this bacon grease to fry my eggs. If you use too much grease, then your eggs just get kind of greasy. So I'm going to pour a little bit out. Don't ever pour bacon grease down your sink or you'll have to deal with a clog. So I'm going to pour out, I'm going to leave about a tablespoon in there. And then before I fry my eggs in, I always like to take a little bit of a paper towel and just scrape up some of those bits so that they don't cook up too much in it. I'm going to do a fried egg today to go on our English muffins because I think it will be delicious. So let me get my grease heating up here. And then we're going to crack in our eggs. But let's check this real quick. These are looking good. And these aren't actually that hot to touch because the top is like warm, but the bottoms are hot.
Beth says you hang the pineapple upside down too.
You know, I've never done that.
People said they do it too.
I'll have to try that sometime. I'm gonna figure out how to hang a pineapple upside down. But I was gonna say, like, most of the time my pineapples always turn out, but there's occasionally you get one where just that top part doesn't get ripe. And this one was such a weird one. It had such a weird curve on it. Okay, let's get our eggs frying up. And then we're going to go grab our tater patties out. And then we can finish cutting up our pineapple. And we'll be ready to make our little breakfast kind of sandwiches, our breakfast today. I'm going to go grab my tater patties out. Since they should be nice and crunchy, crispy.
Cut off the top leafy part and just put it on the plate.
Ah. Now I wonder, would you have problems with fruit flies? I feel like I don't know. Growing up in the north, growing up in Iowa, I don't feel like I ever saw a fruit fly. But here in the South, oh, fruit flies are the worst. They're just like awful in Tennessee. Fruit flies, it's like we even like went on vacation. I made sure I got rid of every piece of fruit in our house before we left. I was like, we'll have no fruit flies when we came back. We still had fruit flies when we came back. I'm like, what are you guys even living on here? There we go. And we'll do a little cut this last one. So this is how I decor it. I cut it my force and then I cut my little top off. And then I'll cut it down in the middle. It makes it much easier. Like I've seen those like actual pineapple decors that people buy. And I'm like, you lose so much pineapple doing it that way. And so I always just kind of cut my pineapple into fourths, and then I cut off that little triangle, and we get pretty good ones every time. Let's get these guys in. And my eggs are cooking up. We're almost done. I will say I love a good eggs Benedict. When we were at my sister's lake house, my brother-in-law, who I always say is the best chef in our family, he made eggs Benedict for everyone, and he did it the true way, like with poached eggs and the Canadian bacon. And I'm like, poached eggs are too much work. Fried eggs good enough for me. Okay.
Another question: what's your favorite fruit?
My favorite fruit is probably it's gonna be a toss-up between pineapple and grapefruit. I love grapefruit. Now, I am kind of a weird person in the sense that I would take a salad over a bowl of fruit any day. I'm not a huge fruit eater, but I make sure all of my kids eat it. I don't like sour foods at all, which is weird because I know that grapefruit is considered sour, but I like that one. But most sour foods or sour candy, anything that's sour, can't do. And I find a lot of fruits are sour. So pineapple, even sometimes I think strawberries are too sour for me. I know it's weird. I'm weird like that. Everyone is like, why would you eat I'm like, I would eat carrots over an apple any day. Cucumbers over. It's just weird.
You have another question. Does the family like Canadian bacon?
You know, it's like iffy. I think they would eat it, but we all agree that real bacon. We want the real bacon. Canadian bacon to me is just ham, and I prefer regular bacon. So delicious, so good. But I can see with eggs Benedict how it works, how the Canadian bacon kind of works with the cut and on the English muffin. It's a little bit more pretty. Okay, I'm gonna do my eggs over easy because I do like them kind of fried up nicely. Now I'm gonna tell you, I am not a patient person, and so I tend to crack my yolks because I don't do it delicately. So we've got one. And now there's all this nice little brown stuff on it. That's the little grits from the bacon. So we'll add a nice little seasoning into it. And what I do is when I flip these over, after I've got them all flipped, this one I want to point out was pre-cracked before, so that's not my fault. I turn off my heat immediately because I don't want them to overcook. And so I flip them and then I turn it off, and that's going to give you that quick little cook on it, which is going to make it delicious. Let's look how much these have popped up. They are doing great. Well, they still need a few more minutes, but we can bring everything over here and we can assemble our eggs Benedict.
Yeah, question. What type of flour did you use for the?
I just used all-purpose flour. I didn't even use bread flour, but I did use unbleached. So I always like to use unbleached because that fermentation process and like that natural yeast, when you bleach flour, it kills it. And with sourdough, you kind of want it to give it a little bit extra with my starter. So it's like the same thing I do when I feed my starter. Let me grab a bread knife. And then in my family, there's two ways people eat their English muffins. This would be the first way is the way Evie loves it. But look, nice, got a nice bubble all the way through, delicious. So Evie would eat hers with just butter. She keeps it so simple. And copious amounts of jam. And lots of it. My kids, for some reason, they're great lover of jam. So you've got your regular way to do it. And these are great. These are classic. These English muffins keep really well. So I always like to make a big batch of them because then you can just cook them back up. And now my way of doing it, the delicious way. So we're going to do our eggs Benedict. So we're going to start. And then we're gonna put our bacon. So I'm just gonna try to put it on here. So now Canadian bacon, as you see, would lay much nicer on there, but who cares? And then you're gonna take your fried egg. Whoops, apparently I can't even flip correctly. Good thing I'm eating these. And then you've got your bacon, you've got your eggs, and now you're going to top it with your hollandaise sauce, which you will drizzle over it. And you'll see it's going to run down because your egg is nice and hot. And this is going to add so much flavor. And then, of course, we've got our tater patties. And let's not forget a nice helping of our fruit salad as well. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just search what we cook for and cook along with me again at home. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront at home, or on at home on our page. So if you're interested in any of the cookware we use, we've got our pans. So I've got my griddle pan in there, my hex clad, and all that stuff in there. Well, guys, thank you again for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.